Looking back at it, I wish I never sold it, man. I put a lot of money into that car, dude. Damn. Even the JDM front conversion, I got that done too. My story begins with the purchase of my 1999 Acura Integra. I was always kind of into cars. I always had a love for cars. I had an interest in modifying old cars, and that's why I made a specific decision to get the Acura at the time. It was actually the very first car I started doing modifications to. Over time, I got into like rally racing and autocross, but the bug bit me a long time ago, back when I was just racing with the fellas on the streets. I think shifting into competitive racing was easier for me than most, only because a lot of my friends I hang out with, they had wives and kids and priorities, and me personally, I had none of those things. And I'm not saying you can't do it when you got responsibilities, but it's definitely easier when all you have is yourself to take care of. For me, I knew if I wanted a car part or something, I just had to go on a ramen diet for a little bit, make a few sacrifices, and boom, I knew I got the car part, it'd be worth it in the end, and I'd be happier for it. But some people just didn't have the same freedom, you know? Like, which is perfectly fine. But me, I eventually, you know, with the freedom that I had, I eventually made an Acura Integra into something way more than I ever thought I was going to do to it. But you know what, though? Actually, all of this really started from a bet. Me and the buddies were coming back home from someplace, I can't remember where, and we ended up wanting to get some dinner. So we made a bet, and we were like, yo, the last person to make it to the restaurant has to pay for dinner. Man, we were hauling ass down that road. And, well, I mean, I lost, unfortunately. I mean, because, you know, let's face it, the Acura Integra, it wasn't meant to be a race car. You know, the Type R maybe, but even that, it wasn't putting down big numbers or anything. But I wasn't mad that I had to pay for dinner. I was mad that I lost, because that's always been my thing. Like, competition is what drives me. And, geez, man, that hurt me more than anything, because the guys didn't even have fast cars either. That was the thing. They didn't even have fast cars. I think my buddy had a Dodge Avenger back in those days, and my other guy, he had a Hyundai Genesis Coupe. His car was pretty nice. I think he still has that car, actually. But I was just mad, and I was like, dang, man, I lost. But at that time, I had graduated into a higher class of society, and I had a decent job. I was making a little bit more money, and it wasn't so scarce as it was the few years prior. And I don't get me wrong, I wasn't balling, okay? I wasn't doing great, but let's just say I didn't have to do that ramen noodle diet like I used to back in the day. So obviously, you know, the first thing you start thinking about when money starts flowing in is like, all right, what kind of car am I gonna get? And I couldn't really get into any of the cars that were in the market. Like, I'm a GTR guy. That's my car, and I'm gonna end up getting that car one day. But I couldn't afford it. I can't afford it now. So I was thinking to myself, like, if I can't get what I really want, then let me just stick to what I have. And I made the decision to just stick with the Acura. I came to the conclusion that I wanted to get revenge in the car that I lost in. So I wanted to make the Integra a monster at this point. And that's when I started researching ways to increase power, you know, through various ways, and, you know, what would be best. And I came to the conclusion of doing like an engine swap, because I wanted to get a K-Series in there. I was hearing a lot of good things about the K-Series at the time, and how they can handle boost and things like that. And then through all the research, I came across a few forums of guys who had installed an all-wheel drive platform on the car. And I was shocked, because I had never really known that it was possible. I knew of certain projects that had been done, but I never realized that it was actually obtainable. And I mean, I'm not gonna say easy to do, but I was looking through these forums, and the people who had did it, they had documented the entire process and made it super easy to understand. So I knew I wasn't able to necessarily do it myself, but I knew I could at least take it to somebody, and they could follow the documentation on the forums and do the same kind of thing that I wanted. So I started calling up some shops in the area, and unfortunately nobody in the area really gave me the vibe that I was looking for. But I went a little bit further out of the area that I live in, and I came across this mad genius willing to work with me and do what I wanted. And I took the car to his shop and discussed what I wanted with him. And right away, it kind of just clicked. Like he understood my vision, understood my passion. He knew exactly what I wanted. The day I dropped it off, they started getting right to work, and that was awesome, man. They would frequently catch me up on like certain updates, day and night, and ultimately work with me on how I wanted some things done. I wish I could say I spared no expense, but the project was pretty expensive, and that was still with me cutting some corners. But by the end of it all, I finally had what I really, really wanted, and they called me up one day and told me to come on down and turn the key. And dude, when I got there, first of all, let me just say it like this: 1999 all-wheel drive, converted, turbocharged, case-swapped Acura Integra. Oh my God, it's a mouthful. I love saying it. I was so hyped. I called all of my friends that night and I was like, yo, we're going out to eat and I got something to show y'all. I pulled up to the parking lot. I watched the soul leave all their bodies, man. We raced to the restaurant that night and oh my gosh, dude. The best part wasn't even the speed. It was the amount of traction that I was putting down. I was leaving them off the line, man. Best feeling in the world, hands down. No spin, all go. But yeah, that was a fun night. And you know, I'm a little older now. I'm a little more mature, so the phase of being a little irresponsible with cars is somewhat out of my system. You know, I say somewhat because I still have 2 projects that I'm working on, currently in progress right now. But I'm slow rolling those. Okay, those are going to be for my kids. I'm working on the projects with them, and yeah, you know, you're never really out of the project phase. You're always going to be looking for the next project, but you'll just learn how to do it more responsibly, you know? Like, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to be a car guy until the wheels fall off and my engine dies, you know what I mean? But through and through, I'll miss that car, man. That was a real experience. And I don't know, who knows? Maybe I might try building another project similar to that. We'll see.